Hardy, thank you for joining me on the path.
Thank you so very much, Patton. I'm really looking forward to being your guest today, and also the guest with the amazing audience that you've got for your
Uh,
outstanding podcast.
they're in for a treat. Hardy, you were with me for episode number 186, and we talked
Wow.
about some of the same topics that we're going to talk about now because you have been literally the expert on the dynamic between board and staff. And we all want our nonprofit organizations to thrive, and they need board and staff to work well together. Your fantastic book is called How Do You Stop the Nonprofit Board Blame Game? You've taken that on the road. You're having lots of conversations. What do you still see as maybe the biggest challenge between staff and board making it work?
Wow, what a great question. What I see is that there is a disconnect,
Yeah.
and I know we'll get into the what exactly is that disconnect and why does it exist, but there is a disconnect, and it's the and I also know that at the end you'll ask me for one bit of advice. I'm going to give it now, and then I'll
Let's do
repeat
it.
it at the end. It's about relationships,
Yeah. Yeah.
and relationships between CEO, executive director, and their board, and then vice versa. And as a sector, we don't patent it, we just don't seem to feel like there's a need or it's necessary to invest and do the work that it takes to build and maintain and nurture positive, productive relationships with our board members. There's so many nonprofit organizations whose leadership, and probably none of them are listening to your podcast because
Right.
these are all the great shining examples of how it ought to be done.
Right.
But unfortunately, there's so many that just don't want to be bothered with their board members. So as a consequence, they're missing out on the opportunity and the potential that a positive, productive, fully engaged board means. So it's the relationships is and I think too, we know, and everyone listening to the podcast knows, we all talk about the frustration dealing with the board's not engaged, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. I'm gonna share with the audience today. I feel like those are symptoms. The frustration is a symptom, disengagement is a symptom. Those are all symptoms. And we'll talk about some of the causes.
We got to get behind those symptoms, don't we, Hardy? And you're the perfect one to talk about that and help explain. By the way, for our listeners, Hardy's all over the country speaking about these topics, and I'm guessing, Hardy, that it continues to resonate with your audiences, right? That yeah, Hardy, you're onto something, and I need to have a better relationship with my board.
Absolutely. And they're ballpark 1.5 million nonprofit organizations in the United States. So that's a lot of staff people, staff professionals. That's a lot of boards. It's a lot of board members. That's a lot of dysfunction. It's a lot of frustration that's out there, and it all needs fixing. And that's the quest I'm on.
Hardy, why'd you get into this quest? Lots of things you've experienced, lots of topics in our mutually shared nonprofit sector. But why did you focus on board engagement? I guess, for lack of a better term.
Well, I saw early on when getting started as a consultant in the nonprofit space, working with associations, working with the nonprofit social sectors, the chamber of commerce organizations. What I saw was across the board the commonality of this frustration.
Yep.
and around board members not performing and not meeting expectations. And, with my 30-year history in the world of NASCAR racing, that means I think differently than most folks in the world of nonprofits. I have a bit of a contrarian viewpoint anyway. And in the world of nonprofits or in the world of NASCAR racing, you're always asking why not, why not,
Yep.
what
Yep.
if, and how can we improve from one race to the next race. So in the world I saw in the world of nonprofits, here is this issue that's a main pain point for so many organizations, and there doesn't seem to be any answers forthcoming. And so I said, okay, I'm jumping into this. And the more I swam in that pool of board dysfunctionality, the more I realized, wow,
You're
this
onto
goes
something.
really deep,
Yep.
and I'm determined to find out answers why. And I feel, and not only just tell you, hey, Patton, you got a problem. I mean, you have a problem, but I want to be able to tell you why you have a problem, and then how we can work together to fix your problem.
That's why I love
And
the book, Hardy. I mean,
yeah,
it's practical, right? You're not just kind of pointing fingers at problems. You're also offering solutions.
yes, yeah. We don't need any more preaching. We got we got that.
We
We
got
we
enough of
know we
that,
have a
right?
problem, but
Well, well,
we know we have a problem.
all right. So why'd you do a course? I'm excited to learn more about. You and I have talked about it. So you're taking many of the concepts of the book, I think, and putting it into a
Yes.
tool, a course. Why did you do that?
Well, I appreciate you asking about that. The course has been, getting a book to print, as you know, is a process. It has to really be a labor of love,
Indeed.
and it is something there. Well, the course is just like producing a book,
Yeah.
and I wanted an opportunity to expand on the book and go deeper. And so, what the course does is, and we'll be launching on September. We'll be launching soon. So
Yeah.
we
As
may
this
be,
episode comes out, it may be
yeah. Well, but
available. We'll need
by the
to.
time the episode comes out, it will have been launched.
Yes.
So with the course, I wanted to create an opportunity for nonprofit professionals and board members alike to be able to take the lessons from the book and go deeper, because the course is based 100% on the book. So
Nice.
go deeper, stimulate more thinking and thought, time for reflection. And so it's not a 30-minute webinar. It takes
Right.
a while. It's a time investment to go through the entire course. I guess about 5.5 hours or so to go through the course. And then there's about 20 hours of self-study, self-guided work that you can do, on your own, and you develop the solutions, based on the exercises that are there. So you will have gone through this course and come up with a solid assessment of where you are in your relationships with your board, what kind of adjustments you need to make, and also you will have written your own action plan for how to develop the board you want. I'm
Love
excited
that.
about it.
Yeah, I love it. Again, practical is the word that comes to mind. And Hardy, you incorporated some subject matter experts, did you not? In
Yes.
other words, talk about literally how the course, when someone gets the course, talk about it and how you incorporated expertise like that.
Well, I'm as good as I think I might be myself. A little bit of an ego there, right? Hashtag Hardy has an ego. Um, I certainly didn't want the audience and the folks, the nonprofit professionals who were buying the course, I didn't want to subject them to me talking for 5.5 hours. I certainly
Right.
didn't want that, and they wouldn't either. Um, so what I did was reach out to the very same resources, the subject matter expert resources that were so generous with their time and allowed me to interview them and be included in my book. And then so for the course, what we did was we replicated that with video. So there were a
Nice.
number of the very same subject matter experts, the go-to experts, the best there is, and did video interviews. And so there are interviews and drop-ins and guest appearances. Um, and so that's what was step number one. And then also I reached out to another whole subset of subject matter experts like yourself, like Lee Williams at PMA, and others to review the course and be beta reviewers, if you will, and offer editing suggestions and offer ideas on how the course itself in beta form could be improved. So a great collection of resources and subject matter experts in the book, and then that got plussed up in the course itself.
It's fantastic. And again, I'm going to encourage our listeners to check it out because it is not just preaching, as you put it. It's what do we do about it? In fact, let me ask you that question. You and I have talked about this before. When a
Yeah.
nonprofit leader comes to you and says, Hardy, my board is driving me crazy. In essence, I am pointing the finger at them. But I think you would caution me, would you not? I mean, what advice would you start with when somebody is immediately saying it's the board's fault?
Well, anyone who um, remember at the beginning, I said it's about relationships.
Right.
Anyone who has ever um, had a need for uh, personal relationship counseling, and you and your partner uh, go to the counselor or go to the mediator or the arbitrator,
Right.
and you're having those conversations. It's how often do you think one of the two parties in the two-person relationship say, wow, I'm really not even sure why I'm here. I didn't know there was a problem.
So true.
So it's very, very rare, isn't it, that a two-party relationship, when it isn't working out, if you're really being honest, probably both parties are contributing. Could be different levels,
Yes.
but
Yes.
both parties are contributing to the relationship not working. And here's a quick example. I was doing a team building exercise this last week for a nonprofit organization, their professional staff, and we were talking about communication and being an active listener. And so I was, we were going through, okay, what are some of the tips? What are some of the techniques of being an active listener? Like actively demonstrating you're listening, and maybe putting down the phone and not checking email or texting while the other person is talking.
Yes,
And
indeed.
one of the people, it's great when you have real time, real life examples of no, don't do that.
Uh-oh, it
So
happened.
so one of the people on the team, of the professional staff team, said, well, I just do that all the time when my wife is talking to me. And I said, I'm just gonna suggest that, after 50 years of marriage, one of the things I've learned, that's not good.
That is not good.
And then he said, well, but she does it to me. And well, now hang on. So you probably can't fix her. And it's probably good to not try. But what you can do is you can execute the behavior. You can demonstrate the behavior that you would like to see. In other
Well
words,
put.
you put down your cell phone and you have eye contact and you be an active listener. So the point
Model
of
good
this,
behavior, right? Model the good
absolutely,
behavior.
model the behavior you want. Absolutely. So the point is, if you've got a board or a board member or several board members who are not communicating, who are not being active, who you don't feel like they're really kind of buying into their side of the relationship, rather than blame them, is it possible, look in the mirror, is it possible that you need some behavioral changes yourself?
Yep.
And what is it that you can do? Because which one's easier to fix? Is it easier to fix them or is it easier to fix you? So
Start with
again, this
yourself,
is this
right?
is one of the things, and there's um, so many things that an organization can do very easily, um, if you just stop and think about it, that can fix relationships.
Such good advice, Hardy. I was going to ask you the other side of the positive situations you see between staff and board is a characteristic you want to see the leader having one-on-one meetings with each
Sure.
board member, or what would be an example of the best boards or best board staff relationships you're seeing?
Well, I think number one is the go back to the very beginning, and of the relationship. Wouldn't it make sense if, and just let's just work one on one.
Yep.
Wouldn't it make sense if you're interested in starting what could be a long-term relationship, wouldn't it make sense to get to clarity on expectations on what you and your partner to be um believe, get on the same page, if you will, but get clarity on what the expectations of the relationship are? Well, let's go from personal relationships to staff, CEO, ED, board relationships. All too often, all too often is my experience, Patton, that that clarity is not reached in the beginning. It doesn't happen in the recruiting process.
We miss it,
It
don't
doesn't
we?
happen. We don't miss it. We skip it.
Yep. Got it.
And why would we deliberately, I'm going to really push it here. Why would we deliberately skip what we expect of our board members? Why would we skip that?
Yeah. Why does that happen? You think we're just kind of stuck in the way we've always done it?
I think it's more to it than that.
Okay.
And I'm not asking anyone to raise their hand, but well, they're not on camera. So if you're guilty, raise your hand. How
Yeah,
about that?
exactly.
Some self acknowledgement. But here's the thing, in our recruiting process, we're not intentional about recruiting. And because we wait until the last minute, and that's a whole other
Yeah,
conversation
good point.
about recruiting board members with purpose and process, but we don't. We're not intentional about it. And so we wait until the very last minute to fill those board seats that are coming up. And so because we wait to the last minute, we're not putting a whole lot of thought into potential board members. And then, oh, a name pops up. Oh, Hardy's got one. Okay, Hardy's got one. How about oh, Patton? Yeah. He would be great. Well, but Patton, he's like a blue chip 5-star prospect, and I can't tell him everything we want the board members to do. Why would I not tell him that?
I don't want to
He
scare them off.
he
Right?
don't want to scare him off.
Yep.
He might say no. So
Yep.
what we do, our all too often, the default behavior, and this is going down the path of frustration with your board. You know what's going to happen. And all too often, you say, okay, we're just going to get him to the altar. We're going to get him to say yes. And once he gets to his first board meeting and we've got him, we'll
Then
let
we'll
him
tell
know
them.
what's expected. And
And
he's done.
no,
He's done.
yeah, no
Especially,
wonder. No wonder.
especially, especially if it involves fundraising or
Yes.
personal giving, and you
Yes.
did not have that conversation in the beginning. It's done.
So well put. It's a short-term thinking. I've just got to get you on board. Hope I
Yeah,
convert you once you arrive. But more likely, Hardy, is what you're saying. Board member is disenchanted because, like, hey, you didn't tell me this stuff, and now
right.
you want me to do it. And so we lack that clarity, I guess, of expectation. We're not seeing job descriptions clearly articulate.
Right.
Are you not seeing effective orientations? Is that among the mechanical things, Hardy, that are missing?
You know, I always appreciate, maybe I'm too much of a contrarian. I don't know, but I always appreciate when orientations are brought up. And I would say effective orientation, proper orientation. You know, Board Source does this great research about every other year or so. They're uh, uh,
Leading with
leading with
intent,
intent,
right? Yeah.
leading with intent. So every single year that I've been watching, I've been looking at those data reports. Gosh, I'm not sure how far back I've been looking at this, but a consistent evaluation question is how would you, and this is typically for either board chairs and staff, how would you grade your board members on their knowledge of their roles and responsibilities?
Yep.
And historically, the answer is at best like a C plus, and it's at best a C plus. So not very,
Everybody's struggling, right? All
yeah.
right.
So we don't really grade their knowledge of what they're supposed to be doing. We don't think much about it. Well, here's where the hardy pushback comes in. Well, duh. Whose responsibility is it to make sure your board members know what the heck it is they're supposed to be doing? Do they walk in the door? We've already said we don't really do a good job of clarifying expectations. So you don't have that conversation, strike one. And then who is it that's supposed to be providing the training and the background on what they need? It's the staff, right? So all of a sudden, we're just creating problem after problem after problem, and our own behavior um, is being executed in a way that's just we have a
Makes it
problem
worse.
and we just insist on making it worse. And
Yes.
it doesn't
Yep.
have to be that way.
Well, are the things advice when the board member comes to you? Again, you're giving great counsel on the staff side. We need to hold up the mirror, right, and acknowledge our part of the relationship.
Sure.
Understand we can help with clear, responsibilities, orientation. If a board member comes to you and says, "Hardy, I'm in a tough situation," similar advice for them.
Absolutely. You know, help your board members, have that conversation with them.
Yeah.
And this can, it's not likely to happen in a meeting. And I'm really talking right now about a local nonprofit. So it's not likely that a board member sitting around the room for a local nonprofit board, they're not going to raise their hand and say, here's something I don't know. Here's something as a board member I'm struggling with. And why is that?
Yep.
Well, probably all of those board members, they are all of their peers. And you're not likely, not many of us are likely, are we, to admit in front of our friends and our peers that I don't really know what the heck it is they're talking about.
Exactly right.
So recognize as a staff professional, um, reach out, touch base, just depending on, if you have 40 or 50 board members, it's kind of hard to have regular communications, but have some kind of frequency, intentional cycle for individual base touching with your board members.
Yes.
So could be a phone call, could be an email, could be a check-in, a text check-in, just their,
Yes.
their own communication preferences. Could be a lunch, could be before a meeting, after a meeting. If there's a particular item coming up on an agenda that that Hardy really seems to have a hard time understanding the financial statements. This one is going to be a little challenging. Let me see if I can reach out to him and see if he would like a little extra time rather
Nice.
than, you don't want to call me out in the middle of a
No.
board meeting. Hardy, you look deer like you're a deer in the headlights, which
Right.
might be true with the
Right.
financials,
If I
but
haven't helped you, right, in
right.
advance.
So just take initiative. Again, it's really your question was about what can a board member do. Just recognize it's going to be hard for them. They may not even know what they don't know.
Yep. Right.
So as a staff professional, just reach out.
Hardy, the book is a great read for the staff and board member, in my
Yes.
opinion. Both sides need to think about this topic. As far as the course, is it targeted for the staff side primarily, or could a board member benefit from it as well?
Both the book and the course are targeted for, but will benefit
Yep.
both the staff member and the board member alike.
Both of whom want to get better at board engagement, right? Or
Yes.
staff board engagement, which in turn makes the nonprofit more
Yes.
effective. And
Yes.
so, again, grateful for these resources you're bringing to the sector, Hardy. So many good takeaways here. Is there any particular takeaway you would highlight as we kind of close here? If someone listening, what do you want them to take away?
Certainly, I think adopt and this could be for as a board chair, as a board member, as a staff professional, adopt a mindset of being intentional. Be intentional about communication with board members. Be intentional about board recruiting. Be intentional about providing proper orientation and ongoing training. Uh, be intentional about making meetings matter so that your meetings aren't turn-offs, they're turn-ons. And
Yes.
board members want to attend because they feel like at the end of the meeting, they've actually done something other than waste time, which you're going to start seeing what happens, as a result of that. So
Yep.
I think adopt intentionality with all of your practices. A good friend of mine, Stephen Shapiro, and he is a featured resource in the course and in the book, wrote a book that I have a lot of fun with. It's called Our Best Practices Stupid. And I worked with Stephen and kind of repurposed all of that and retitled that section of the course in the book, Our Nonprofit Best Practices Stupid. So if we've all heard that old saying about if we keep trying something and doing things the same way and expecting a different result, we've all heard that.
Yes.
But does this sound familiar? In the nonprofit sector, we keep trying the same best practices or the way we've always done things, and we keep getting results that are leading us to frustration and angst and sleepless nights with our nonprofit boards. So does it make sense to
Amen to
keep
that.
doing them?
Yeah. We wonder why we feel like we're banging our head against the wall. You just described it. We're not stepping back and looking at it in a different way, which of course you are encouraging us to do. Hardy, it's fantastic. We're going to lift up your book for sure. We're going to lift up now. Stephen Shapiro's book sounds like one that we all need to ponder. One more parting gift, Hardy. Is
Yes.
there a book recently, maybe on your list that you'd add to our recommended library? What's a book you'd share? One more.
Well, if I could, let me just first share on my website, I've got a list of all the books I've read and recommend.
Love
So
that.
highly encourage everyone on the Path podcast, take a look at it, hardysmith.com. It's there, it's available to you as a resource. The book that I would like to really give a shout out to today is Creativity Inc. Creativity,
Yeah.
INC. And
Yep.
it's written by Ed Catmull. Ed Catmull. Ed was the CEO of Pixar. And it's when I first picked up the book, I thought it was about the business of Pixar and how
Yeah.
you be successful in business. It's not about that. It's all about the secret sauce of what made Pixar successful. Successful as in on the brink of financial failure and collapse to a complete turnaround. And this is what I think is so important for our nonprofit community. The lessons in Pixar, the real takeaways to me, are about how to create a culture of collaboration. And he outlines that, and he says that is the secret sauce behind the success that we all know of Pixar animation, and also, by the way, Disney animation, because Disney animation tapped Ed Catmull to come over across the street and do the same thing for them. Creativity Inc.
It's fantastic. I happen to have that recommended to me, Hardy. I love that you're adding it to the list here. Thank you for keeping your list among other great resources you're offering. I know we can send our listeners to hardysmith.com. Where else do you want them to go to find out more about you, your book, and your course?
hardysmith.com, one-stop shopping.
You're active on LinkedIn too. Let me give you a plug there
On
amongst
LinkedIn,
the
yes,
social
yes.
channels, right? But
Shared an article, the most recent article, 7 tips for successfully leading volunteers went out today.
love that. Great content. Great to have you back on the podcast. Thank you for what you're doing for the sector. And thank you once again for joining me on the path.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.